What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. I hope you are all having a good Monday. And let's get into it, shall we? Starting off with Quebec. So, Quebec City police caught violently arresting a black youth. Now, this is quite a disturbing one, because it's actually video to this. So, yeah, the new Quebec City mayor says images troubled him but only shot part of the picture. Except there's actually a video, so I don't know why he's on about just images. The mayor of Quebec City, Bruno Marchand, said that he has full confidence in the local police force, SPVQ, to investigate the actions of some of its officers after disturbing footage of two young black people being arrested was widely shared on social media this weekend. My sincere thoughts are with everyone who was affected by those events that deeply upset some people or maybe even caused some to feel fear. Marchand said at a news conference Sunday afternoon. Responsibility, courage and respect are the values of our city, he says. We want to make sure that respect is something that can be felt and lived by all our citizens on a daily basis. Marchand was joined by SPVQ Chief Dennis Turcotte, who says the SPVQ is working hard to figure out what exactly the role of each of its officers were during the intervention. Turcotte says his organisation took action to identify the officers involved and get to the bottom of what happened. As soon as it saw the shocking images, the videos show a man in a police uniform kicking snow in the face of a young boy, and another officer can be seen landing several blows while the boy is lying on the ground and being restrained. Now, obviously, here we go. I'm going to show you the video. Apparently, there was also a part, in a separate arrest of a black woman screaming. Apparently, his police officers dragged her by her hair. One point, they were dragging her by pulling her hair. It sounds really, really awful. But I'll show you the video, then you can kind of see where this is at. This by CBC News. We're gonna have to play this a few times because there's a few things and it's really hard to see what goes on because of the quality of the video. So I do apologise by that, but there's not an awful lot I can do about it. But let's start. And as the video says, graphic warning. So this is the first part where you can see the officer kneeing what appears to be one of the boys from what was described in the article. And it looks like they're kneeing them in the arm and the side. So like the ribs area, the shoulder, the arm. And you'll see more. You can see that they're on the knees. And then they fall backwards and turn. And then striking blows. And it looks like they're punching them in the face. Or in the arm. It looks like the person's got trying to get their arm up to defend themselves while the officer is striking them in the face. Obviously, this is really disturbing. And then, I don't know what that was. I don't know whether that was a phone. I think it might be the phone. I don't know. And then there's another person over there. But yeah, that happened. That happened. And obviously, it must have been very scary for everyone who was involved in it. I mean, there's not really more to say other than that, but it does look really bad. Now, it's what I don't get. It's that level of force, right? There's a difference between restraining someone and then there's someone being on the ground and you're kneeing them repeatedly, you're striking them with your fist. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. But I don't know what went on with these arrests. They say they're looking into it, that they don't think it was racially motivated, the arrests, but if there was anything, then they'll deal with it. I mean, that's what they're always gonna say, right? but there's not really been any statement of what actually happened there. They're still looking into it and stuff. But anyways, let's move on to the next story. So, the next story is from The Guardian, and it is about Australia's government's new anti-troll legislation, which would allow social media users to sue bullies. Well, that's what they say, at least. It's not quite what it seems, is it? Let's get into it. So laws will require companies to reveal users' identities, but experts say a focus on defamation will not help curb rates of online bullying. So this is the big part of it, right? So we'll go through. Starting with, the Australian government is set to introduce some of the toughest anti-troll legislation in the world, but experts say its focus on defamation will not help curb the rates of online bullying or cyber hate. On Saturday, Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced his government would introduce legislation to Parliament this week that would make social media companies reveal the identities of anonymous trolling accounts and offer a pathway to sue for people for defamation. So basically, if you're accused of something that you didn't do, or people say that you did something that you didn't do, or if you're found innocent of something, or just straight up lies that aren't even true or having basis in fact, right? It might not even be a criminal thing where you're being accused of something. It could just be them accusing you of just being a bad person, or saying something that's racist, or that you never said, right? So it'll give recourse for those people who have had their character defamed in some way. You know, that's why it is defamation, the defaming of someone. So under the legislation, the laws will require social media companies to collect personal details of current and new users, and allow courts to access the identity of users to launch defamation cases. It's unclear what personal data would be collected, but there are indications it would include phone numbers, email addresses, and users' contact names. And a huge overhaul of the legislation would also change who's responsible for defamation posts, from organisations that run pages such as news organisations to the social media companies themselves. Now this is where I have the problem with it. Oh, don't get me wrong, social media companies need to be held more accountable. And there is actually examples of ways of holding social media companies more accountable. But the problem with this is the responsibility for defamatory posts from organisations that run the pages. So basically, anybody can say horrible, terrible things. Organisations, including news organisations, right? And they're not responsible. They are not responsible anymore journalistically for anything that they say or do. And that is where I have a problem with this. Because you are responsible. You are responsible for what you write. If you write something, I mean, like, I was going to say, if you write something, then if it's wrong, you should post a retraction. But the problem is if you write something and it's wrong, the damage is already done. And retractions actually, in reality, do very little to actually remedy a situation. Because people watch the story, read the story, and that's it. They're done with the story. They don't go back for an update. They don't go back to check if something's changed. They don't go back to see if there's a link to a new retraction. They don't. People consume news in a matter of minutes, right? You will consume this video in a matter of minutes. You're not going to come back to this video in, say, a week and see if I posted an update down below because something might have changed. Right? You're just not. That's the nature of this video. You're going to watch it and then you're going to move on. And that's the nature with this as well, right? People don't go back. So, and I think it's really not a good idea. It's not well thought out to let news agencies off the hook like this, because it'll lead to more irresponsible journalism, and that is not what we need. We need more responsible journalists. We need more accurate information, and we need these defamatory posts and comments not to be made in the first place, right? And now putting the onus on social media companies, how does that help? It really doesn't. If anything, what I would have liked to see is that the responsibility was placed upon both of them. If you are an organization and you post defamatory posts and comments, you should be as equally responsible as a social media platform who fails to take down such posts, right? You both should be equally responsible. So he says that it's about ensuring consistency between real world rules and those online, which is nonsense, because in the real world, the person who says the things is responsible, not the random place that you're at. You know, it'd be like me going to McDonald's and saying something really nasty about someone who's in there that isn't true, and then a defamation suit happening against McDonald's. Like, what? No, McDonald's didn't do anything wrong. It was just a random customer who said some shit, right? But they don't get that, and yeah. The rules that exist in the real world must exist in the digital and online world, he says. The online world shouldn't be a Wild West, where bots and bigots and trolls and others can anonymously go around and harm people and hurt people. Anyways, a cyber expert and author of the book Troll Hunting, Ginger Gorman, said the legislation will not do enough to combat online abuse. And it won't, because this doesn't combat online abuse, right? It's specifically about defamation cases that this is tackling, and that is very, very different to online abuse. Online abuse isn't someone defaming you, that's just someone saying horrible things to you, about you, to you, right? It's not the same as them spreading lies about you to other people. So yeah, overall I'd say this is far too little too late. So much real harm has already been done, and this doesn't go far enough, Gorman said. The government must legislate a duty of care so the public has to be kept safe by the platform. They are continuously publishing egregious content and have no accountability for this. So yeah, she said Germany, where companies' platforms can be fined up to 50 million euros if they do not delete posts containing racist, defamatory, or otherwise illegal speech within 24 hours, showed governments could take serious action. And I agree with that. I think that's fair. I think that's a better way of doing it, by including everything and making it a fine for the social media platforms. I also think that they shouldn't allow news agencies off the hook by this, by saying it's on the social media platforms to be accurate and responsible, but it's not upon the news agencies to responsibly report and follow their journalistic duties, right? I think it's a little bit weird that way. But anyways, let me know what you think down below. Let me know what you think down below about this one, because I think it's going very much the wrong way, in the sense that whilst, well, it doesn't even cover any form of like real harassment that people face. It only covers defamation, which is limited. But also, it allows news agencies off the hook for the defamatory things that they say and the real harm that they cause. And there's too much of pandering to these media companies that really need to be dragged through the mud and actually dealt with and forced in some way to be held accountable for the things that they get wrong. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think down below. Moving on to the next one. So the next story of the day is Jussie Smollett. And I'm not even going to read through this entire article. The article's by the Chicago Sun-Times. And I'm not going to read through it all. Basically, the summary of the article is Jussie Smollett is heading to trial. Nearly 3 years after the former Empire star was accused of hate crime hoax, the 39-year-old actor and singer is charged with lying to Chicago police in 2019 when he claimed he was a victim of a racist anti-gay attack near his Streeterville apartment. I think many of you will remember that incident. It was well publicized, and a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon, and a lot of people made comments and stuff. And then very, very quickly, it was not long after it started coming out that it did not look like any of this actually happened, and that investigators were doubtful of what happened. And obviously, then they were like, we really think this was all false. And then they brought charges. Then some other stuff happened. But, anyways, there's a special prosecutor on the case. The charges have been filed. There's nothing serious in the charges. There's a maximum sentence of up to 3 years, apparently. And yeah, it's doubtful that he will get the 3 years, right? He won't. It'll probably be a slap on the wrist or something, but he will get a felony charge for it. But it is at least good to see that they're not letting this lie. That the prosecutors are going ahead and actually gonna deal with it. The special prosecutor brought in because significant people were outraged by this, and they want action for, potentially ruining people's lives, right? And also just wasting cops' time. People might think it's nothing, but when you waste actual cops' time, that is actually other crimes that are happening on that puts people in danger. That takes resources away from people who need it. And yeah, let me know what you guys think down below of how you think this is gonna go and stuff. Moving on to the next two stories. I'm just gonna give you a warning now. These are distressing. If you have been a victim of gun violence, or know anyone who is a victim of gun violence, and you might think that you might be disturbed by these next two stories, then I advise that you don't listen to them. With that warning out the way, let's move on. So, the Denver Channel. 5 people wounded in Aurora shooting. So this happened in Aurora, Colorado. Aurora police are investigating a shooting that left 5 victims who range in the age of 16 to 20 wounded outside a party on East Colfax Avenue overnight. Police are working to identify a suspect or suspects and no arrests have been made at this time. Police said all the victims are males and are expected to survive their injuries, which is good news. But it is disturbing because obviously this is children that we're talking about here. And apparently 5 teenagers between the age of 6 to 20 were shot at and have been injured. The shooting occurred near North Dayton Street, East Colfax Avenue, sometime around midnight Sunday. According to the Aurora Police Department, arriving officers found 2 gunshot victims at the scene and they were transported to the hospital. 3 other victims self-transported and showed up in the hospital soon after. The department said officers arrived on the scene and counted a large crowd of people leaving the area who were believed to be attending a party at 9709 East Colfax Avenue. It's unclear at this time if the shooting is connected to that party. And this is just awful. And there's a lot of people talking here about this, but yeah, there's a lot of people talking about this who live in the area, and you have a lot of distress, and it's understandable, right? Apparently this isn't just a one-off thing. This is a problem that's in the area, and every time they try to tackle stuff like this, it feels like they're getting nowhere. So one person has said, to see what has gone on in the community since I went to high school, it's astounding. Jason McBride, secondary violence prevention specialist at the Struggle of Love Foundation, said Sunday. He attended the meeting alongside State Senator Rhonda Fields, APD Chief Vanessa Wilson, and APS Superintendent Rico Munn. These kids now they're in a kill or be killed mentality, he said. Sunday's shooting follows the one at Norm Park on November 15th and the one at the Hinckley High School parking lot days later. A total of 19 were injured in both shootings. Wilson addressed the ongoing problem at a prayer gathering Saturday. I know we want to be those cool parents, but we can't be anymore. We need to be in their backpacks, we need to be in their bedrooms, and we really need to be engaged and involved, she said. McBride hopes the community can work to find a solution soon. And that is honestly it. It's finding a solution. And we'll get on to the next story and we'll continue talking. So this one comes from wwmt.com, which is News Channel 3. There is a lot of these obscure news channels, not gonna lie about that. So the title is, he walked on the bus and began shooting. 3 shot, 1 dead after gunman opens fire. So this happened in Kalamazoo, Michigan. A shooter opened fire and injured 3 passengers inside the Kalamazoo Metro bus on Saturday morning. Investigators said the shooter, identified as a 54-year-old Anthony Oliver, boarded a bus at Kalamazoo Transportation Center and started shooting at passengers. Mr. Oliver walked on the bus and began shooting, said Kalamazoo Deputy of Public Safety Chief Vernon Coakley. Michael Kirsch said he was arriving at the transportation station of a different bus when he heard the shots. I heard boom, 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 said Mike Kirsch. Kirsch said the shooters went inside Kalamazoo, said the shooter, went inside the Kalamazoo Transportation Center. The shooter was standing 5 feet away from me with the gun, and he looked at me and he waved the gun, said Kirsch. My heart was pumping. I was scared for my life, as you would be if someone had a gun and was just walking around shooting people. Police said he did not shoot inside, and when he came out, officers shot him. The suspect later died at the hospital, and the police on scene did treat his wounds, but by the time he got to the hospital, it was too late. His wounds were too severe. It's so yeah. It's not one person's job. It's not one of our organization's job. It's us and our community to work toward ending gun violence, Coakley said. It's not when, but where. And we have to speak up. We have to talk about this situation in our homes, in our businesses, in our community. And this is what it comes down to, again. Community, right? I'm just going to say this, because people say there isn't, but there is a problem with gun violence in America. There absolutely is. The evidence is overwhelming that guns are a problem. And it's constant. Like, it is constant. I would be terrified if I lived in America, frankly. Especially at the moment. I would be terrified. And I'm not saying that try and be in a panicky way. I just think, like, me as a person, because of my skin color and everything, like, holy crap, I know. People are in their own communities are saying, you know, we're scared. Things like this happen, and we're scared. And I don't think that you can say that there isn't a problem when people are legitimately saying that they're in fear. They're in fear, and it's incidents multiply happening. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, and have a good rest of your day.